Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to our commented chess games played by computer series. So in this series we're following some great games that are played by top engines like Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Stockfish engine and many more, and today we'll see a special game played by the Fish, played by the new Stockfish 15 version. Today we'll see the Stockfish 15 engine playing a beautiful wing gambit against the Sicilian defense, and the wing gambit is a risky opening. If you're a beginner I would not recommend it to you to play, but Stockfish, as we said, can play whatever Stockfish wants to play. Even with this wild lines, Stockfish is getting good positions, and I think the cool part about the wing gambit is that many times you're building sort of a beautiful attacking formation, and you know, when the Fish is building a beautiful attacking formation, then really wild things will happen for sure. So let's see now what happened here. As I said, Stockfish 15 against Berserk in a beautiful wing gambit. So we have e4 by the Fish, we have c5, and now comes the wing gambit move, which is now the move b4. Here we have the wing gambit accepted, and the cool part about this wing gambit lines, but actually it's about every gambit that you're playing in the opening stage. You see this pawn from c5 gets now deflected from the center of the board. Okay, black has here sort of a domination, maybe 3 versus 1, 3 versus 2 possibility here on the queen side, but the cool part for white is of course that white has now a dominant position in the center of the board. The downside, I think, a little bit for black in this wing gambit lines is that black has problems where to castle. When black is castling queenside here, still I would call it this is sort of a weakened pawn structure. Many squares can be attacked here from white's perspective. So with c3, a3, white will eventually open the position here on the queenside. So as I said, where you have actually here from black's perspective the pawn majority on the queenside, but still it's risky to castle on this side of the board. But also if you castle kingside, then with the central control that white will eventually build with d4, e4 and similar stuff, maybe if the position allows it, even with the move f4, then white is creating many times this breakthrough on the king side with e5, maybe also with the move f5. So the good part I think for white is, as I said, you create at least attacking chances. It's a risky line, but playable I think here for both sides. So in the continuation we have knight to f3, we have e6, and now comes this very important move d4. So we have now from white's perspective dominant pawn central control, and it's really hard for black now to counterplay this position. So we have here knight to f6, attacking the pawn on e4 immediately, bishop to d3, developing the bishop but also protecting the pawn on e4. Knight to c6, we have a3. This is a normal move in any wing gambit lines because we want to still deflect also this pawn towards the queen side, to outside to the outside of the board. But now with the c3 we want to then further control our pawn on d4. So we have d6. You see these two pawns are really passive, meanwhile white pawns are in the center of the board much more active. So in the continuation, kingside castling, bishop to e7, and now comes this move c3. Now you have to make some kind of reaction. Whatever you do, if you take out this one, then the knight comes out with a tempo. If you take the pawn on a3 like Berserk did, then the knight comes here on a3, but it's only temporarily on the edge of the board. It's not such a huge problem to have this knight on a3 like this, because still you are having opportunities to have the knight then eventually on the square c4, maybe eventually then the knight will come on e3, then also it controls the g4. So you have, I think, a good route here, although so far the knight is out of game. So in the continuation we have kingside castling, knight to c4, queen to c7 was played. If you play d5 immediately, I don't think this is so good, because e takes d5, e takes d5. Okay, you are kicking away the knight from this very important square, but now with knight to e5, white is occupying now very important square in the center of the board with both of the knights. So the two knights are controlling now the e5 square, and now I think in the near future queen to c2 could happen. You see we're attacking then the h7, rook to e1 will happen, bishop to e3, bishop to f4, bishop to g5, wherever you want to play with the bishop. I think in this scenario white would build again a beautiful and nice attacking formation. So d5 still, in my opinion, a risky move here for black. So that's why queen to c7 was played by Berserk. We have knight to e3, rerouting the knight now towards the center of the board. Look at this again, the knights are dancing already here on the king side, are controlling of course also the center of the board. So we have now b6, knight to d2. This is a beautiful move by the Fish, because now Stockfish is, as I said in the beginning of the video, it's not a problem that black castle kingside, but now you see white is doing already something. F4, F5, E5 is an opportunity, and then in the later stage of the game, so it's still a tough position now to defend for black. So we have now A5. This is a beautiful move, I think, by Berserk, because Berserk is trying bishop to A6, trading off the light square bishop. The light square bishop is, in my opinion, actually the best minor piece of white, because in the near future, as we said, F4, E5 could happen, and then when the knight gets deflected here, maybe to D7, then this bishop is powerful. Then you could maybe attack the position with queen to H5, a rook to F3, rook to H3. These are the normal ideas how to attack, I think, here the castle king. So that's why here A5, and after move F4, here comes now Berserk's idea, bishop to A6, getting rid of the most powerful minor piece on the board, getting rid of the light square bishop. So far, good defensive strategies also by Berserk. So we have now bishop to A6, pardon me, rook to A6, and now queen to E2, attacking now the rook and not allowing also this pawn to get advanced on B5. If that happens, then of course B4 could happen. Then black is suddenly creating now a passer here on the B file, also combined with the pawn on the A file. It could be very, very risky. So now comes D5 by Stockfish 15, and this is now one of the critical moments of the game. I think D5 is a brutal, brilliant idea here in the middle game stage, but I'm not sure about now this move by the Berserk engine. The Berserk engine played knight to D8. In my opinion, E takes D5 should be played here, and also my Stock 15 engine is suggesting this move, E takes D5, and after E takes D5, okay, still the knight has to move now, but I think in this scenario, when you move the knight immediately to D8, you see these three pawns are still connected. In this other scenario, you see after move knight to A7, these pawns in the center of the board are not connected. At least white is not threatening the E5 breakthrough. So I still think that maybe the Berserk engine should have taken at least once in the center of the board and then retreat with the knight maybe to A7, to E8, to D8, wherever you want to play, but at least now keep maybe this pawns disconnected here in the center of the board. I'm not sure, really, as I said, my Stock 15 engine suggests this maybe as a slightly better move for black. But okay, here D5 was played, as we said, knight to E8, played by Berserk. As we said, white still has this connected really pawn storm in the center of the board. So we have now G4. So you see, Stockfish is saying you had your chance to maybe make something in the center of the board. Now I'm attacking here the position further. So we have knight to D7. Although queen to C3 was an opportunity maybe to get rid of this pawn on the C file, but the queen in this line is getting more and more exposed. You get a couple of extra tempi against the queen. Rook to A3, you see it's going to happen. Maybe you can move the queen here to D4, but look at this, rook to D3, rook to B4, rook to B3 is going to happen. You can maybe even reroute a queen here to C5, but it's not getting better. The bishop is coming into the game, so the queen would be actually very, very endangered. Even if you try, I don't know, maybe here after move rook to D3, even if you try maybe to escape with the queen to A4, it's not getting better. I think rook to A3, you get maybe here the activity here with the queen to D7, but now look at this with G5. This is already I think a messed up position. Knight to E8, and look at this H4, maybe even F5 in the later stage is going to happen, F6. So it's a powerful here pawn storm by white. So that's why queen to C3 wasn't played in the game. Knight to D7 was played by the Berserk engine. Here the Berserk engine didn't allow some extra tempi also with the move G5, but G5 was played anyway by Stockfish. Stockfish is saying I'm occupying now here really the king side, and now in the continuation we have B5. So Berserk played of course on that side where black is better, where black has of course here the pawn majority. If you play in this position instead of this move B5 E5, maybe to stop a little bit white's progress, then you get this one, knight to F5. So you see, whenever you maybe protect one square, you keep then another square here weak in the position. The rook to E8 maybe could be an opportunity, but now with C4 we're controlling here still the center of the board. You could maybe try here E takes F4, maybe to jump with the knight on a beautiful square on e5, but still queen to h5, g6, knight to h6, king to g7, and now queen to h4. I would not love to play now this position from black's perspective. Look at this, bishop to b2 is going to happen, queen to f4, f7 is weak, rook to f3, rook to h3 are there. So many tactical opportunities I think here for white. So this e5 move still would be risky. So that's why after move g5, here we have b5, as we said by the Berserk engine. Berserk simply continued the pressure here on the queen side. So we have king to h1, we have rook to e8, and now bishop to b2. Here Stockfish 15 is preparing c4, liberating then the long diagonal for the dark square bishop. So we have a4, and now comes really a beautiful move by Stockfish. Stockfish plays c4 immediately. So it was really a surprise for me when I saw this move at home, because I thought, okay, after move c4, b4 is going to happen. And look at this, black is having now here two connected passers on the a and b file, but actually b4 would still be risky. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show you really the power about this move c4. If b4 happens, then you have this one, d takes e6, f takes e6, and now here the move f5 could work. And the problem is now, even if you try some ideas of knight to e5 to maybe block the long diagonal, the threat is always here, this kind of an idea, queen to h5. So you see we have an attack against the rook. So the problem always in this tactical sequences is that the rooks are not connected here by black. That's the downside about this move, rook to d8. So you see, still in this position, I think this would be a much better position now for white. So the problem is now after move this one, f5 or something, you cannot take out the pawn on g5, because as we said, you get queen to h5, you get a double attack against two of these pieces. So this b4 wouldn't be so powerful because of the opportunity, as we said, to play here some wild ideas, d takes e6 followed with f5. So it's not working. So that's why after move c4, the Berserk engine took now b takes c4, but now bishop to c3 blocks both of these pawns. Here Stockfish didn't want to lose some time just in order to grab one of these pawns. Played simply on a blockade. Now the pawns are disconnected, they are not connected, they are not here passers that could maybe create to combine some dynamics. Basically they are isolated pawns now, and they are now huge weaknesses. So basically with the move c4 here, Stockfish 15 solved all of the positional problems now that are happening on the queen side, and Stockfish is saying, now I'm transposing the game really fully to the king side, where I have here the dominant position, where I of course can attack immediately black's king. So queen to c5 was played by Berserk. We have rook to f3. You know, as usual, when Stockfish is playing rook to f3, some beautiful rook lifts, you can guess what's going to happen. This rook is going to be a nasty one, because now it's obvious the rook is coming to h3, where it's attacking of course the h7 weakness. So we have now a3. Berserk is continuing the pressure here, but now rook to h3 is simply a powerful move. The rook is becoming now actually the best piece on the board. So we have now a2, it doesn't matter, queen to g2, and now a rook to a3 trying to attack the bishop, but this was a desperate try by Berserk, because knight to c2 is solving again many positional problems. The rook has to step back, and the cool part is that the bishop is protected on c3. So although Berserk has here two pawns, two pass pawns, they're not so mobile, they're blocked out by this beautiful piece activity of white. So now the rook has to retreat. Here we have rook to a8, and now we have rook to g1. If you try now, eventually, maybe here the move e takes d5, this wasn't played in the game, but still look at this, e takes d5, and the problem is now still f5 is going to happen, queen to g4, queen to h5. So still black has here really some problems how to protect the h file. Of course we have to play first some ideas how to protect maybe this isolated pawn, but look at this is really already a messed up position here for black. So as I said, after move rook to g1, here e5 was played by Berserk. Berserk really tried now to get some kind of an activity here in the center of the board, tried again to disconnect these two mobile pawns, but now Stockfish played a monstrous rook sacrifice, rook to h7, a really stunning tactics. The problem is now you cannot take out the rook. The rook king to h7 is not going to happen because you get g6, and if you take, of course, f takes g6, rook queen takes g6, and then with queen to g7 you have a beautiful checkmate. So that's why after move here g6 you would have to step back here, maybe with the move king to h8, but now actually the winning move would be really cool one. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show really the power about this move rook to h7. So maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. So it's winning immediately. It's really hard to see because I think we should really understand what's going on now on the board. It's really a tough move now that you have to find for white. Okay, the best move here is actually bishop to d4, because what you're trying to do here, you're trying to get somehow in the way of the queen, because the queen wants to be sacrificed here on g1. Because a mistake that you could play here is g takes f7. If that happens, then we have this scenario: queen takes g1. Now you have to take with the king, and now in the near future here knight to f7 of course would happen, and now queen to h3. Okay, you have to step back. You can actually take out here the knight on d7, but I'm not sure about this position. E takes f4 is going to happen. Now knight to e5, we would cement everything now in this position, and still black is here passer. Here, for instance, the engine gives equal chances for both sides. So this is not working, so that's why I have to be careful. Bishop to d4 is a beautiful move here in this position, because now you can maybe take, but now after g takes f7, the problem is now the g file is opened and the rook is hanging. There's not a good way anymore to defend this position. The queen is coming into the game, so you're getting checkmated for sure. So now you don't have time here to sacrifice the queen for a rook. So as I said, this is our analysis after move king to h8, but this wasn't played in the game. After move rook to h7, king to h7 wasn't played by the Berserk engine. The Berserk engine calculated this, of course, as a huge mistake. So that's why we have here knight to f8, getting a new piece into the defense. So here in the continuation, we have rook to h3, the rook stepped back, and now knight to g6 was played by the Berserk engine. We have rook to f1, and now a1, the promotion. Here the Berserk engine promoted to a bishop. Really funny stuff, but okay, here after knight to a1, still nothing dramatically changed. Here Stockfish still has the control of the c4 pawn, has now blocked out also this one, and the main goal is now, of course, the beautiful f5 move, maybe f6, g6, and similar stuff. So we have here rook to rook to a3 by the Berserk engine. Even if you try something like knight to f4 here, it seemed to me that this could be a logical move. This move really made sense at home when I analyzed the game, but rook to f4 is now immediately winning the game. This is not working for black. Black cannot defend the position like this, because after e takes f4, you get again this move g6. The problem is now you have to react. If you maybe play, I don't know, something like rook to a3, look at this, you get here a beautiful checkmate. You can just include the queen into the game, queen to h7, king to h8. So this is basically the main motif, this rook sacrifice on the h file with the support of the pawn, getting the queen into the game and to build a beautiful checkmate. So this is not working. So that's why after move knight to a1, we have rook to a3. So knight to f4 was never really a possibility for black. So we have f takes e5, pardon me. We have d takes e5, and now knight to c2, again kicking away the rook here from this very active square. So here knight to f4, and you know the grip, rook to f4, e takes f4, knight takes a3, queen takes a3. We have reached now a similar position. The problem about this move is again that the queen is getting more and more exposed. Look at this, the queen is lined up now here to the square. So that's why here we have queen to f1, first attacking the pawn on c4. We have bishop to g5. This pawn was hanging, but now comes a beautiful stunner, bishop to g7. The queen is now attacked and you have to step back. So we have queen to e7, and after bishop to c3, let's finally stop a little bit and evaluate now this position. The material is equal, and all of these beautiful tactical lines happen just in order to get this position. That's the beauty, I think, about Stockfish games. that Stockfish is creating many times. Beautiful, immortal tactical lines like in this game, just in order to get a more healthy pawn structure. And okay, this is far away from winning, but when we look now this position, these two pawns are connected. They are really powerful. The bishop is powerful. This pawn is weak. This pawn on f4 is weak. The king is endangered a little bit, so black still needs to make many moves in order to create some kind of a defensive idea here. So here in continuation f6, you see you have to block out now this long diagonal for the dark square bishop. Queen to e2, we have a queen to f7, now d6, just advancing the pawn. Here we have king to g7, and now queen to g4. The queen is now coming into the game. We have queen to g6, and now a beautiful check, and now queen to b5, attacking now this weak pawn on c4. So far you have to be careful. You don't want to lose this pawn. If that happens, then probably black has some chances to draw the game. But here after rook to f8, we have d7, bishop to h6, now finally queen to c4, and this is now completely winning. So here after move queen to c4, king to h7 was played, queen to f5, queen to d5, trying now queen to f5, trading off the queens, rook to f7, we have rook to d3, supporting now this passer on the d file. A much better position again for the Stockfish 15 engine. Rook to f8, queen to f5, a beautiful move that forces now a trade of queens. We have queen to f5, e takes f5, and this is now basically an unstoppable pawn. Now we want to just reroute maybe the knight somehow to e6, and then just push the pawn further to d8. So king to g8, now comes this idea, knight to d4. We have now knight to c5, and now again knight to e6 is working, because whatever you do, it's simply winning. Even if you try, I don't know, knight to d3, still would take it out. Knight to f8, king to f8, and then we still can promote. Even if you try here knight takes e6, it's the same. F takes e6 is going to happen. You cannot stop both of these two connected pass pawns here on the d and e file. So that's why in the game the Berserk engine was forced to give up now the knight for pawn, and this is completely winning. Rook to d7, we have rook to b8, we have rook to d8, forcing trades of rooks. But now this pawn is weak, and here Stockfish had a, as I said, just a winning position for sure. So king to f3, getting the king closer, pushing the pawn further. Rook to h7, now the promotion of the queen, now beautiful check, a couple of checks, and here after move bishop to e7, king to b6, and queen to b7, the game ended with a beautiful checkmate. So a really beautiful game, I think, a really beautiful wing gambit. I like here really its opening. Sometimes you can use, I think, the wing gambit in order to surprise your opponent, but be careful. Think about the common strategies, about central breakthroughs, defensive ideas, defensive pieces, good pieces, active pieces, passive pieces, and similar stuff. So I think we have seen many beautiful ideas here by the Stockfish 15 engine. In the beginning, Berserk defended somehow, but then eventually with some immortal pawn moves like this flank attacks on g file were really incredible by the fish, especially also the beautiful rook lift. This is something that only I think the fish can do. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas for sure. If you want to see more Stockfish 15 games and some other brutal beautiful tactical games played by other top engines, check out our commented chess games played by computer series. Here's our whole playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what they say, chess is the best, of course.